Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, is heralded as the best tank in Marvel Rivals. The damage output potential of him with the ability to still be a vanguard is why he's being used in such high level, and your ability to land shots with him is going to greatly increase his proficiency as a tank more so than any other tank. Missing a couple of your shots on Magneto, Thor, or Penny isn't going to make that much of a difference, but every shot missed is pretty significant on Doctor Strange. His basic attack sends out 5 magical daggers in a straight line, each of which does their own instance of damage. It takes about 3 shots to be able to take out your average 250 health player. Strange's basic attack cannot perform a headshot, so you don't need to worry about hitting the head of the targets and just aim for center mass. He also has a melee attack. This is going to send out a whip that does about 1.5 bars almost of health onto one of these Galactobots. The best attack strategy on Doctor Strange when in melee range is to weave between shooting out the daggers and using the whip to animation cancel out of the dagger cast. With this combo, you can get the enemy's health to about 1 bar in the same amount of time it takes out to get 2 salvos with just the basic attack. Strange's right click is a massive shield and his main form of mitigation. This blocks all incoming ranged attacks in your direction and checks away the HP of the shield. Starting with 800 health, once it's broken or anytime it's put away, it begins slowly regenerating value. If you continuously take damage while putting out the shield, it's going to be losing health and will eventually break if you don't have the regen to be able to restore it. Putting this ability up also causes a animation cancel on your basic ability and is used for your main ranged attack strategy. While holding your primary fire key down to shoot out your daggers, you're going to be tapping your shield key to be able to bring up the shield, animation canceling out the daggers, still getting the damaging effect, but making sure you're still mitigated from incoming damage. The thing to get used to here is your reload time. After 8 shots, you're going to begin your reload, and you're not going to be wanting to try and weave shields in, because if you shield mid-reload, it stops the reload and makes you have to start all over again. Try and track your shots, and when you know you've fired off your last one, try and break line of sight from your opponents so you can manage a reload without taking unnecessary shots. Beginner Doctor Stranges make the big mistake of just standing in front of enemy fire with the shield up, blocking all the attacks until the shield shatters, and then not being really sure what to do at that point. Allowing the healer to be able to constantly be topping you up when you do take damage, and using the shield to block some of the hits so that they're able to easily keep you topped up is the best strategy. If your shield breaks, you're definitely going to be wanting to leave line of sight and allow it to recharge a bit. Keep weaving into sight and shooting out shots when you do this to make sure your enemy doesn't get too comfortable, but use terrain to mitigate damage rather than using your shield during this time. Price of Magic is his passive. Whenever he deals damage to a target, he builds up a little bit of dark magic. Once he's built up 100 dark magic, he gains a debuff that stops him receiving any healing. His E ability, Maelstrom of Madness, will unleash all currently built up dark energy, removing that debuff and damaging enemies based off how much energy has been built up. This is potentially a massive amount of damage, and being able to build up these charges faster is key to being effective as Doctor Strange. Doing aiming drills in the practice range is really important on Doctor Strange, and I highly recommend it if you're starting out in the game. The difference in damage from, say, 80 to 90 to 100 isn't that significant, so making sure that you unleash your E Maelstrom of Madness at an effective time to be able to do the damage is more important than trying to build it up to 100 all the time. A really powerful Strange combo is to do basic attack melee, basic attack E, and that will kill any 250 HP target if you manage to land all of your hits on them. So if that enemy diver comes in, or if you manage to get close enough to one of the enemy backliners, performing this combo is going to be your best way to unleash and destroy these players. Doctor Strange has a unique F ability, Pentagram of Farala. Upon activation, he will begin opening a portal. Then you have 2 options. You can either begin moving to place the other end of the portal. The first end will be at his current cursor, and you can put the other side at any point across the map. Positioning is important, and whichever way you're facing when you click the portal is going to be the direction that the portal goes when you enter it from the side that you're facing as your character. Another option is when you begin creating the portal, you can do a left click immediately to reposition the start. Repositioning the start allows you to change where the portal begins before you then place the secondary part. This is how you do a much better job of performing the Doctor Strange terrain kill. Start it and move the position of the starting portal off the edge of the map. Then place the other end of the portal right in front of the enemy spawn, activating it at about the 2-second mark before the game begins. Players spamming the W key to come charging out of their base are immediately going to go through the portal and fall off the cliff to die. There's an achievement for this, so pulling it off early on when players aren't used to dealing with it is really important to making sure you get that achievement done. However, that's not the only use of this portal. The portal is an extremely powerful tool, and top-end Doctor Stranges are using this thing to amazing effects. Portal play is really the key to making Doctor Strange the best that he can be, and here's a couple of cool examples. Simple ones would be after dying, put a portal and then get back into the fray faster. Or in the last couple of minutes of a match, make a portal and send it back to your base, so if anybody does go down, they have a quick way to get back into the battle. Another really cool option is doing a ult delivery system, dropping a portal above the enemy team when your ult is ready, and then hopping through the portal and ulting. They won't be prepared for you to come in from above, and you can quickly get your ult off. You could also deliver some allied ults with this method, delivering Wanda or an Iron Man pulse through the hole when they're not ready for it. When you're starting an escort the payload mission, you can begin the portal at the start, and then place the end above the enemy team wherever they've hunkered down to defend you from. This will allow your ranged DPS units to shoot through your portal and rain attacks down from above, which the enemy players aren't quite ready for. This is extremely potent with Hawkeyes, Black Widows, or Punishers, who can all set up really well and be able to unleash damage from above, nuking the enemy team down. If the enemy team has really hunkered down at a location, putting down the portal and then opening up the other end at their backline behind their healers and having your players be able to rush through and nuke out the enemy backline before they're ready is also a great strategy. Strange's left shift is the Cloak of Levitation. Activating this, he'll fly up in the air and will begin levitating. In this form, you're able to move around freely, you can unleash attacks, and you can use the space key to move upwards. All the arrow keys are going to work, and you're going to be able to levitate for a short period of time. If you hit shift again, it ends the ability immediately. Careful of this on activation. Accidentally tapping shift twice really quickly can sometimes cancel your ability to stay elevated. Doctor Strange's ultimate, the Eye of Agamotto, unleashes an attack after a delay that hits all enemies in a massive ring around you. Enemies' hit soul will be removed from their body and will be pushed back. This will stun all targets that were hit. This ability definitely wins games. There's a lot of times when enemies are going to be stacked up on a point due to the final seconds of a match counting down, and unleashing a really well-timed Eye of Agamotto onto them is going to stun the entire enemy team and allow your team to mop them up. It can also be extremely effective against slippery divers that have come into your back line. If you don't have a lot of great ability to deal with divers, unleashing the Eye of Agamotto once an Iron Fist or Spider-Man, possibly even a Venom, comes slamming down onto your backline can CC those targets long enough to let your backliners wipe them out. You're not unstoppable or invincible during the windup of this ability, so watch out for CC and try not to be too obvious that you're performing this. As well as don't try to pull this off if you have too much damage coming in on you and no strategist supporting your back. Doctor Strange has a team up with the Hulk, turning his Maelstrom of Madness into a Gamma Maelstrom. What this means is Doctor Strange's E ability is now going to do extra damage, have increased range, and when you build up to maximum dark energy, you no longer receive a heal block as long as Hulk's in the game. You can build up to that 100 and then hold the burst of damage until a more ideal time, rather than needing to unleash it before you die. This is really strong, and is probably one of the stronger team-ups. Doctor Strange is already heralded as a high damage tank, and having extra damage, extra range, and no longer a downside to building up dark energy is absolutely massive for this character. Alright, so playing as Doctor Strange, you are your team's vanguard frontliner, using your shield to protect your team, and weaving out as many of your daggers as you possibly can, pushing out damage that is actually quite surprising for what a vanguard can do. Use terrain to block enemy shots, and move up whenever your shield is up, trying to get to better vantage points, pushing up on the enemy team. Alternatively, if they're pushing up on you, you're going to want to be weaving in and out of line of sight, using your shield to block some attacks as you hunker back to a better defendable position. Try and plan out where your enemy's movements are, and shoot your daggers out where they're going to be in about half a second. The travel time on these is rather long, and it's really important to make sure that you are leading your target or predicting where they're going to end up being before you unleash the attack. If you're constantly just aiming directly at your target and firing, you're going to be missing so many of your shots with this ability because of the slower animation and slow projectile speed. Use your left shift ability when an enemy melee dive character has gotten onto you and you need to get away from them. Your left shift will put you quickly up into the air and you're going to be able to back off and reposition yourself with your teammates. Dive characters and melee characters are definitely Doctor Strange's greatest weakness because his shield doesn't block any of their damage output, so he has no real way to mitigate their incoming damage. With no CC abilities in his basic kit, he can't really deal with melee characters. Be wary not to be up in the air too long because that's going to leave you a sitting duck to enemy attacks. Try and reposition yourself quickly and hit left shift again to land in a safe spot where your healers can find you. Healers often aren't looking up to be able to find allies to heal above them, so make sure that you're in their line of sight. The main point of your shield is not really to defend you, it's to defend the people behind you from incoming attacks. If you're just trying to mitigate damage to yourself, finding objects in the game to break line of sight with is going to be more effective, saving your shield's HP. There are some situations where you're definitely going to be wanting your shield to protect you though. If you notice Hela on the enemy team has begun her ultimate, you can run up, shift to fly up, and then right click to block her attacks. Your shield has enough HP that if she unloads all of her attacks, your shield should block all of them. And your levitation duration should match close to the duration of her ultimate, blocking most of her potential damage output. And negating major ultimates like Iron Man or even Doctor Strange is really powerful because of his high damage output, major damage reduction, creative ultimate, and unpredictable portal ability. Doctor Strange is always going to be a top contender in Marvel Rivals as the top players continually take advantage of his capabilities. Due to the higher skill cap needed to get the most out of this character and its heavy reliance on increased accuracy, this is not the best character for new players or players with poorer aim within the game. If you want a character where accuracy is not as important, but they can still make a massive impact, next time we're going to talk about Penny Parker, one of the strongest vanguards.
Sazaze.